Alright, here it is, finally put together. The 73 to 1980 front clip Cummins swap, yada yada yada. So basically what we have is, I guess it's an 80s AC condenser. So I just bent the lines, twisted this one so it comes out 90. And I'm just going to drill a hole and come in with a 90 degree and straight out. This one, I can't remember the way it was bent, but bent it just to go out that hole. To mount it, bent 1-inch strap, 1/8 inch steel, and then 1/8 inch steel rivets. I just bent it. It's about 4 inches. I think it's 15.5 tall. And I just drilled it right into the intercooler. This upper layer is just one little piece of aluminum, no air flows through it, so you can rivet it and mount to it. So that's how the AC condenser's mounted up. There's a 1/4 inch gap or so between them. God, I'm forgetting all my words. The turbo air cooler downer, the intercooler. So I used stock style mounting pads and they didn't quite work, and I buggered it up, so I went and got some of those rubber hockey pucks from Home Depot, and I cut it down so that is a smaller diameter. It's about 1 1/4 inch diameter that fits down in this, well, the top plate to this stock mount. So some of this is stock, some isn't. But anyway, so it's got the peg coming out of the intercooler into this big rubber hockey puck. And then everything else has just kind of been welded and reinforced. A lot of this is done for strength. These core supports, when you get on that weight on them, the weak points is always right here and down there. I mean, you put dual batteries and all that in them and start bouncing them, and after you cut it all up and weaken it, then it isn't quite strong enough and they break apparently. So I got a lot of reinforcement on the back. That's why most of this stuff's all been boxed off and welded and just everywhere I could. So mounted right here, some more of those hockey puck rubber things. Just put in a drill press and used a Sawzall blade, just held up with my hand while I was spinning on the drill press, and cut a groove in it. Slipped them over that. Then ran a 3/8 bolt through, drilled a hole, and mounted it just like that. Same on both sides. The intercooler is actually pretty slick the way you can mount that. So now it's all rubber isolated, shouldn't have a problem. And then the AC condenser's mounted to that. So in my head it works. Same thing on this side. Just kind of boxed all that in and weld them out. So this isn't tall enough for the stock height body bolt, I don't think. So I'm going to have to do some figuring there. But I got the DIY 52-inch spring swap and the body mount brackets right here. And that kind of messed it all up anyway. So I'm going to have to get real creative, and because I only got like 1/2 inch that it can come up. Otherwise it jacks these fenders way too high in the air and body line doesn't line up. Alright, so for reinforcement, this is I think 1x2 inch steel rectangle tubing, and I boxed off the end and I just cut out, so this is the way it was all the way across for the most part. I basically cut it out and welded this in its place and welded everywhere I could. Some of my welds are better than others, but anyway, so then you got another piece coming up right here, right on the outside of that, and so this piece runs the whole, basically the whole length all the way down. Up here, it's welded to the stamped metal. This stamped metal has a lot of strength. Where you lose the strength when you do the swap is you cut all this crap out to mount these really close, because the Cummins is so deep. So we end up cutting all the strength out of it. But if you can get into this foreign metal and kind of reinforce where it attaches out here, I think you're good on the strength. I got a piece of, I think that's 3/4 by 1/8 inch. Sorry, focusing issues. I just welded that all the way across. So as far as the bendy flexy motion of where the batteries and the fenders and all that mount on, I think I should have made up my strength with these two pieces that go all the way across. You can see it down here. This is really boogery, but I painted it Thrust-O-Lame, so it's okay. So anyway, there you go. I'm not going to tell you how to weld, but just make sure you keep this thing square when you're welding on it. Anytime you're welding to it, any heat you put into this thing, it's going to tweak it and warp it. So do skip welds, weld a stitch down here, and weld a stitch on the other end. And don't just go continuously welding all the way across. You're gonna go put your fenders on it. It's not gonna line up at all. But what I actually had to do is I took my core support and put it on this table flat long ways and clamped it down on all four corners. So whenever I was welding on it, it was clamped. Even if it's one little spot, it's called heat shrinking. When you heat up a little spot, steel contracts. I think it's 1.5% each time you do it. So I mean, up to a certain point, but I mean, just that little contracting is going to tweak it all to hell. So make sure you clamp it down, do little stitch welds. Don't go blazing full beads up and down this stuff. But all right, then for my shroud, this is 14 gauge. No, I think this is 18 gauge. My bad. Anyway, it's thin. Didn't want to be too heavy. I've never done any metal work before, so this is a big grandiose experiment. But I have one of those Milwaukee 16 gauge shears, and you just, God, it's pretty sweet. You just cut out whatever you want, and then we used a piece of angle iron on the edge of the table to make most of these bends and folds. And anyway, so we have pretty much a bend all the way across, and we come out on these, and I got some rubber weather seal. I'll just show it to you. So this is 19/32 wide. So anyway, this will stick on to these flat tabs we put in all around it, and basically make a nice seal. So when this fan is in here, it's pulling the full suction. Wanted the fan, so it's the fan's actually sitting in here pretty close to the radiator, but it should ride most of the way inside this shroud. So it, I don't know, it'll be about halfway. So you want to just maximize the airflow. So I should be pulling air from all surfaces of the radiator that way. I did make it so I could take it apart. I got 3 bolts going through, and then I just doubled up this 18 gauge on the back right here. Just have a flat 2-inch strap going in, something like that, and then angles, and that's tack welded every so often. And then these are just captured nuts on the inside. I just took the nut, drilled it, tightened it down, then tacked it on 2 spots on the nut on the other side. So you can just thread these right out and take the top half of the shroud off for whatever reason. That way you don't have to undo the whole front clip if you need to change a belt. On the bottom, obviously the way they sit in these Chevys, you know, you got to go down quite a ways. So that's about 3.5 inches deep. And I just fold the tabs in for that curve and tack welded all the way across. Then it's tack welded the front there. That's what this ring is too. This is a 2-inch strap, and then I just sliced it all the way down when it was, you know, a strap laying flat, and then cut slits and then bent all the slits back in against this. If you get in the right light, you can actually see my tack welds. So inside there's a bunch of slats going around that are just tack welded, and I mean, it's pretty solid. Feels like one piece. You know, it seems uber high quality for being a beginner. But anyway, the biggest thing, the biggest challenge here is your width. You get out. My problem with my other one is I had these supports going down right here, and I just cut those out, and I didn't do a very good job, and the intercooler sat all funky out. And anyway, my grill, if you see in one of my original videos, the grill actually slopes out about 1 inch, and it just looks terrible. So this way I should be able to run the stock grill, run everything the way it should look. And anyway, the way that intercooler and radiator sit, they're only about an inch apart in there. I did leave, so right here where the sheet metal, it comes down, I left that intact, but I drilled 2-inch diameter holes. I drilled about 8 holes down that, so I should get some airflow through it still, but I just wanted to retain any strength I could without compromise all of it and still retain some airflow. If you're worried about the airflow, I would just cut it clear out and come all the way around, but anyway, with that shot I got, I think I should be golden. So we'll get it bolted the truck here hopefully this weekend. But anyway, if you have any questions, I can't think of anything I might have missed. So radiator, intercooler, both out of the 96 Dodge. The AC and condenser come out of a 70 Chevy or 80 Chevy. I'm not even sure. I just had the junkyard guys pull it. So if you have any questions, let me know. Definitely a hard part of the project.